here I am back in Florida. It's a new year, a new name. Formerly, the FLW Tour is now called the Major League Fishing Big 5 Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Just finished event number 1 on Lake Okeechobee, February 11th to 14th. So you know what that means. Recap time. I was really looking forward to getting the year started down here in Florida. I love the state. I love fishing here. The weather's great. It's a lot of fun. But I'd never been to Lake Okeechobee before, so it was daunting. It's a ginormous lake, 30 miles wide by about 35 miles long, and they only give us 2 days to practice. Previously, we've always gotten 3 days. Well, they've knocked that down to 2. So before practice even began, I did a lot of online research on Lake Okeechobee. So I was able to narrow down the lake. Just before I even got here, I knew where I wanted to focus. Day 1 of practice, I started up north in the Harney Pond area, and I worked all of that. And then day 2, I was further down south, worked from South Bay all the way up to about Observation Shoal. So I basically did a lot of boating. I had that Ranger Evinrude just flying around Okeechobee, pulling into bays, pulling out of bays, running these crazy type boat lanes. Some of these are airboat lanes only, and I didn't know where the heck I was going. It was actually a lot of fun. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for the right type of water. So I'm looking for a combination of clear water and the right type of vegetation that grows in the right type of bottom. And the main reason for that is we are here in mid-February, right around a new moon. That means it is spawning time. They're either on a bed, moving up on a bed, or just come off of one. Another big factor this year on Lake Okeechobee is the lack of hydrilla. In the Harney Pond area, which would be the northwest corner of the lake, I did find some hydrilla and I got some bites out of it in practice. So I figured, you know what, it's a good spot, so I decided to start my tournament there. My next option to run to was a very small cut that I found, and it was way back in some reeds. I just started exploring and just kept driving and following these boat lanes, but eventually it opened up into this little pocket of very clear water with a little bit of hydrilla in there, which I always find is key for spawning fish. They love to spawn around hydrilla. And as soon as I got in there, I started seeing fish. Saw a lot of 2s, 2.5s, some 3-pounders. So I figured that's a good spot to guarantee me a limit. But I wanted to catch some of these big fish that were hanging around the hydrilla at Harney Pond. So on day 1, I decided to start at Harney Pond and the hydrilla. Another boat kind of came in on me there too, so we had a very small patch that 2 of us were sharing. And I was lucky enough to catch 3 fish. 2 of them were okay. Didn't feel like I was gonna get a big bite, and I spent a good hour there, so I decided to run to this little pocket that I found in practice. As soon as I get into that pocket, I knew where 3 or 4 of them were on or around beds. And when I say that, there are some that are actually on their beds protecting their eggs, but sometimes there are fish that are protecting their fry. So I saw a lot of fry in there, meaning the fish have already hatched, the eggs have already hatched. So there's aggressive males in there swatting things away. And I think some of the fish I caught were in fry guarding stage as well. They were kind of in all stages there. So I went in there and my first 2 casts, basically, boom, boom, fish. Yes, sir. I knew you might again. And then I was fishing a worm in between the beds as well, because you never know what's swimming around. That's where I caught this one. Yes, baby! Oh my God! What were you doing in there? Oh. Yes. From this little pocket, I had about 15 pounds. I was really happy with that. It actually performed better than I thought it could. I kept seeing some fish that weren't gonna help me. I even caught a few that didn't help me, so that's when I knew I had to leave this for tomorrow. This is a 3 or 4 day event, depending how far you get, and you know, if you finish in the top 60, you get a $10,000 check. So my thought was, okay, let's save these fish. It should be enough to get a check. So where can I go to catch a big fish. I go back to that Harney Pond area because, again, historically, this is an area that has a lot of large fish in it. So I actually pull into an area that I didn't even get a bite in practice, but again, it had the right weeds around it. So it had the right bottom, it was a hard bottom, and it had little clumps of cane, clumps of lily pads, little things that they like to spawn on. I am actually flipping this bait right here. Okay, I love the punch craw. All right, this is a Lunker Hunt Descend craw. It's got a nice thick body to it, which I really like because it holds the hook better. This is a 1 ounce Woo Tungsten punching weight, and I actually make my own skirt with that, and that is a Okeechobee craw color that I made. The rod I used for this application is a Daiwa Tatula Elite. It's the 8-foot heavy punching and flipping rod. I use 65-pound braid straight to the lure, and this is the 8-to-1 gear ratio Tatula Elite bait cast reel. So I went in this little area and just started flipping this rig around. It kind of acts like a flipping jig for me, but I can punch it into some of the mats as well. There are some hyacinth mats in this area, so I was kind of working the edge of the hyacinths and also just flipping it next to the cane as well. And then I flipped in and bonk, get the hit, and I crack into this bad boy. Oh, and the hook fell out. Yes. So this bass here is what I was looking for. I was looking for a big bite, and I got it. So absolutely ecstatic. It was the last bite I had of the day, and I went and weighed in. I finished off with 17 pounds even, and I was in 22nd place after day 1, which is incredible. I couldn't ask for anything better than that. Day 2, I'm sitting good. I know that if I can catch 5 quality fish and get around 9 to 10 pounds, I should make the check line, which is really important in your first turn of the year down here to get a check. I mean, at 60th, you get a $10,000 check, and it only gets better from there. So my idea was to go right back to that spawning area where I caught my first limit on day 1. I knew I left a few fish behind. I was actually anticipating catching 10 pounds in the first half an hour. Well, turns out I beat on him pretty hard. It was a little bit harder than I thought to get bites, but I did manage to get 3 or 4 of them off the bed and a couple cruising around. My go-to bait in that area was Lunker Hunt Lunker Stick. Nothing beats a weightless stick bait in this situation. This is weightless, by the way. It might look like it's not. This is actually just a hollow, clear plastic keeper in the front. And the reason I use this is because I'm fishing this around just a lot of vegetation. And I find that the weeds grab the front of the plastic a lot and rip it and tear it. And it also allows it to ball up. And when it's balled up, you'll miss fish. So I use this. It screws in, and it saves a lot of your baits, and I think it helps you get better hooking percentage as well. I'm using a 4/0 EWG hook, rigged weedless and weightless. And then there's a few fish that just refused to bite, so I power pulled down beside them. I had to get out the spinning gear with 10-pound test braid to 10-pound test fluorocarbon, and I used the Lunker Hunt finesse worm, just jiggling it on their bed to catch a few fish, and those ones really saved me as well. I came out of there with 9 pounds, 9 ounces, a couple fish here and there after leaving, but that was it. I weighed in with 9.5 pounds, and it kept me in the top 50. I was in 44th after day 2, and the top 50 move on to fish day 3. So it's a really cool situation for me. I don't have a whole lot of room to fall down, so I can kind of swing for the fences, if you will. But I do want to move up a bit, get points. You don't get any more money until you're top 30, and then top 20 is another jump in the money. So either way, I'm guaranteed a $10,000 check, ecstatic. We have some pretty severe wind coming in, south wind, on day 3, so I completely changed my plan. I decided to run to South Bay. This is an area that I only practiced for about an hour and a half. I found one little pocket that had a whole bunch of males in there, and I thought, you know what, maybe some big females had cruised in. In this area that I fished on day 3 had a really special type of grass. If you can see it here in the video, they call it hay grass down here, and it grows on hard bottom. So this pocket is a pocket of hard bottom. It's not clear. So again, I mentioned before, I'm looking for clear water and the right type of weeds. Well, sometimes you can just have one or the other, and you'll find fish in there. So you could not see these fish on the beds, but every single little clump of this hay grass, it could be 3 strands, it could have been 30 strands of it, there was a male on it, probably on a bed. They were very finicky. I think they'd been pressured during the week. You actually see there's another boat in here with me while I'm fishing for them, and I still caught them all on the lunker stick, but I had to scale it down to spinning gear for the most part. So I used this a 6/8 Kage Daiwa spinning rod, actually, with 10-pound braid to 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that's how I got my first limit. But then the wind really picked up, and I had a hard time getting the weightless spinning rig where I needed it. So I switched to a Lunker Hunt lunker stick with a small weight on the front, a 1/16 Wu tungsten weight on the front on a bait casting outfit. So for that one, I actually used 30-pound braided line, and I tie an 18-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that really allowed me to be a little bit more accurate with my casting in the wind and ensure that that lunker stick was falling properly and not getting blown away by the wind hitting your line. I caught a lot of fish. I had a limit quick. I weeded through them. I did lose, well, right here, but a 3-pounder comes off at the boat. And there's one more. I never saw it, but it felt really big. I could barely move it. Oh my God. I must have left that place after catching 25 fish, and eventually I just figured, you know what, if after 25 there's not one big one in the boat, I gotta run around. So that's what I did. I ran around for the rest of the day, never connected with another big bite, and weighed in 9 pounds 6 ounces. It was good enough for 46th place. Again, couldn't be more happy with that. A top 50 finish in my first event of the year, a $10,000 check, and I'm on to the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. Smith Lake is next.